Hey there, Julian from MemberStack here, and today I want to talk about your load speeds in your Webflow site and some quick wins that you can do right now in order to make your site load faster, which is important for both SEO and user experience. So there are a lot of videos on this topic and some more complicated things that you can do in order to make your site load faster. But what I'm going to talk about are just the quick wins that you can do on every single site, which should make a noticeable difference. So without further ado, let's get into it. And the first one is, as you can see here, we are in the site settings. So you're going to want to go to your site settings and click publishing. And then all the way down at the bottom under all the redirects, you have advanced publishing options. And here we can see these three things: minify HTML, minify CSS, and minify JS. So what that means is it's basically going to take your code and squish it down as much as it can so that browsers can still read it, but removing all of the extra spaces, comments, anything like that. So this is really great because it is going to effectively make no difference whatsoever for your users, but it's going to shrink down your code. And I've seen on some sites when these are turned on, it makes a drastic difference in load speed. I've also seen very little, but I would definitely recommend turning these on and seeing the difference that it does make. That is the easiest one, and it can make a world of a difference. So with that being said, let's go into the designer and talk about the next one. So here we are in the Webflow designer, and the next things that I'm going to talk about are removing unused styles and interactions. So what that means is anything that you have set up, any interactions, animations that you have built, or classes that you've created that you are not using, it will automatically detect that and delete them. So let's go over here first to style selectors, and you can see this little broom. And if you click that, I've already done this, so it says no unused styles found. But most likely for you, it's going to show a whole bunch and say show all, for example, depending, maybe 100, maybe 1,000, depends on your site. And then you can click remove. And this is perfectly fine, but there's one thing to keep in mind with this, and that is it doesn't detect classes that are used in code. So let's say, for example, you're using JavaScript to add a disabled class to a button. It doesn't know that. So if you do that and you have that class set up, it is going to delete that class. That is why I always recommend, if you're adding classes through JavaScript, to go into a page like your style guide and add an instance of that class at the bottom so that it doesn't get caught in this unused filter. But as long as you're not doing that, you're fine. So you can just click clear on those. Same thing in the interactions, just click over here and then click that little brush. And as you can see, I don't have any, but you'll click that. A little modal will pop up asking if you want to delete those and saying which ones they are. You click remove and your site should load a little bit faster depending on how many unused classes and interactions you have. So now moving on to the next one, and that is lazy loading images. So this is something that Webflow does by default, but depending on who built your site, you may have some things that are not set to lazy load. And you don't necessarily want everything to be lazy load. There are reasons to not have things set to lazy load, but the general rule is that you do. So go through your images like this, just click the image, click settings, and make sure that it is set to lazy. This, as you can see, is set to eager. And what that means is that it is going to try to load the image as soon as the page is starting to load. That is good for user experience sometimes because it's going to make sure that by the time they scroll in, the images are already there, but it's also going to try to load them right away. And the not so good thing about that is that it decreases the amount of time before your page is actually usable. It increases the amount of time. So try as much as possible to use lazy loading. And the next thing that I want to talk about is actual image optimization. So if we go over here into our assets, what we can see is there are a lot of images, and you probably also have these. Now, there are Webflow apps, I believe one is called Optimizely, if I'm not wrong, that will actually automatically optimize your images and convert them to WebP. Those do cost money, but if you have a lot of images, I would definitely recommend checking them out. If you don't, then you can just go through your images, and some of them you will be able to see. Try and find an example. This one, if I click settings, you can see it says very large. And what you could do if you only have a couple is just open it like that, right click, save the image, and then go to a site, just Google JPEG compressor and compress the image. Then you can also go to JPEG to WebP, which is a next-gen image format, which is a lot more lightweight. Convert that, and then you can upload it into Webflow, and your images will be a lot lighter. Now, this one is a lot more time consuming. It's better to focus on this while you're building out the site, but it can make a huge, huge, huge difference. So I would definitely keep that in mind if you haven't yet. And the final thing that I want to talk about in this video is activating e-com or members or users in Webflow. So if you're using these features, then it is okay. These have functions which add stuff to your site, which makes it take longer to load. If you have an e-commerce site or a site using Webflow memberships, that is perfectly fine. But I have seen a lot of people activate them, maybe just to test them out a little bit, and then to their horror realize they can never be removed. Ever. At all. They just can't. Maybe you can reach out to Webflow support and have them remove it, but I'm not quite sure. At least right now, there is no manual way that you can go and remove these features. So if you do that, then, for example, let's say you activate e-commerce and users, you will have a lot of extra stuff going on your site, which is not being used whatsoever. So definitely keep that in mind. Do not activate e-commerce and do not activate users unless you plan on using them. So that is it. If there's any other quick wins that you know of, let me know in the comments. I will talk to you soon and have a great day.